Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of The Huddle. I'm Christian Smith, VP of Product and Marketing at Bluberi. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate the time today.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking to you about a great number of things. And I just get the feeling that you're going to be high energy and you got a lot of passion for slots.
Well, yeah, I think anybody that knows me knows that I do love slot machines. I got a big passion for this industry. I get really excited coming to work every single day, and I'm ready. Let's talk about some fun topics in the industry, and hopefully we can touch on some interesting things.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, they say if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. And I mean, yeah, I think I agree on kind of this side of the interview fence, and I'm definitely getting that sense from you as well. To start off with, if you could tell us, just give us a little bit of an introduction to your role at Bluberi and what it is you do maybe on a day to day.
Sure. Yeah, of course, Tim. So I'm the Vice President of Product Management and Marketing, and I basically oversee three different departments here at Bluberi. I oversee product management, which is really focused on, the research aspect, researching our games through the process, the go-to-market process, really refining our games to make them market ready. We've got some incredible studios that have some amazing concepts. And I think one of the roles of product is to really kind of shape those concepts for the market, in addition to doing kind of the competitive research. So going on the market, understanding what our competitors are doing, what are the latest trends, what are players looking for, and then feeding that back into the studios again to continually make better games. I also see data and analytics, which is a really nice kind of complement to the product management department, is that we're going to understand how our games are performing in the market. And we've got a great team that really comprises the data analytics team. They're really getting some really advanced, really data. Traditionally, games are looked at, on an index basis. How is the game doing today? And what we're really focused on is looking forward. How do we predict how a game's going to do 3 months from now, 6 months from now? And I think that's where we're trying to really break some ground and really trying to shake up the industry on the way they look at data. And then finally, marketing, I think is really kind of the last piece of the puzzle. Really how are our games seen by the market, by our sales staff? How do they present games to the market? How do operators see our games? And most importantly, how do players see our games out there? By having these kind of three departments under, kind of really under my stewardship, we're able to really craft a complete message of the way the market sees our Bluberi games out there in the field. So really managing those three teams. In addition to that, I do a lot of work on kind of secondary markets, developing, where's Bluberi going to go next? Right now, we made a lot of great placements in the North American market. We're just going into the Canadian market. And now we're going to start looking at other markets, both internationally and within the US and Canada as we go forward. And so developing those markets is really another key component of my role here at Bluberi.
Yeah, very interesting. Particularly interesting as you say, the indexing of. I think it's very easy in assessing anything. Like let's say your football team, or how your day was, just to say how things are now. But certainly the most important really is how's it going to do in the next, as you say, 3 to 6 months. And when it comes to your competitive research, that also sounds like a fun thing to do. In obviously it's essential, but there is also perhaps enjoying playing some good games.
Oh yeah, it's a great job to have, Tim. I
Yeah.
mean, being able to go out there and actually play the games, understand them, because I truly believe you can't feel a game unless you put your own money in and you feel that pain of losing, you feel that excitement of winning. It's something that we can't really do in our showrooms by playing demos of these games. You got to get hands on with these things, and yeah, you're right, man. That's probably the most fun part of my job.
Yeah, I fully agree. But as someone who's lost a few bets on some Cheltenham horses this week, it's important. But as you say, there is some pain in losing as well. You've got a number of years in the industry, a few years, almost a decade at IGT as well. Wanted to ask how you're kind of utilizing that experience at Bluberi, and you've probably touched on already a little bit in your previous answer, but also quite a broad one. Obviously, that it covers quite a long period. How has the industry changed in that time? Because obviously in that time, there's always change. It's quite dynamic.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Tim. And I think like when I look back at my time on IGT, I started off as kind of an entry level salesperson there. Immediately fell in love with the industry. It was so cool to be working in entertainment for the first time in my life, and I think that's really where my passion started for the gaming industry. Is just that initial intro of like, oh my gosh, people sell these games for a living. And so I got really excited, and that kind of passion really drove me getting really deep into the games and really understanding what the games are, why they're important, who plays them. And so that was kind of really the first half of my tenure at IGT, was just really getting excited about these games, understanding what they are. As I kind of moved through my career at IGT, I got more and more into product management. So I shifted to product management, about halfway through my career there. And that's where I really got exposed to a lot of what truly product management is. And that's that go-to-market process. It's understanding, the reviews of the games, being able to work with, subject matter experts or slot machine enthusiasts, as we call them here.
Mhm.
Um, and work through player focus groups, work through test banks, work through, postmortems of games. And I think that's, learning all those things is something I really took away from IGT. IGT does a great job of building those programs up. And I think what I was able to take away from that coming over to Bluberi about 3 years ago was able to look at those programs and the things that IGT did really, really well, and maybe some of the things that I felt like might scale a little bit better towards a smaller company like Bluberi, and then find a way to implement those within Bluberi. And at this point, I feel like we are, Bluberi is one of the emerging suppliers that really goes through this kind of full go-to-market suite of research to truly understand what we have. And we've got a very rigid test bank program that allows us to put out only the best of the best, understand what those games are. I think we do one of the best in the industry postmortems of our games. I think it's really, truly important to understand, why a game did good or bad. I think a lot of folks out there look at the bad games, and they run a fire drill around that. But they don't pay as much attention to the good games. Understand, why did a game do well? And
Mhm.
I think that's one thing that I really did learn from IGT is that you got to go through the work, you got to do the research, and to be able to apply that to a small company allows us to kind of get to one of our central really values here is putting out quality over quantity. And that process that I learned at IGT has translated very well to this one. When you ask about kind of really the changes in the industry, I mean, the industry has changed massively since I got in the industry in 2012. When I started, it was, a lot of steppers out there. So a lot of mechanical reel games out there. That was, still a big part of the market. Video was really just starting to emerge. There wasn't a lot of multi-denom. The games were, some of the top games were what we call very much entertainment rides. So, bet a dollar, win 90 cents, bet a dollar, win 90 cents. And really about the middle of the 2010s is when the market really started to shift. And there was two big shifts that I saw happening. I think these really play into the current market dynamics too. Is one, we started to see what we call the Australification of the US. The Australian market, very gambler focused. Those players down there like gambler games. It's all or nothing when they're playing those games. And we started to see that shift to the US through really primarily two games. The first being Lightning Link. Everybody's well aware of how well that one did. That is a pretty rough gambler ride. Comes from the Australian market. And the other one that had a big impact was Dufu Dakai, or 88 Fortunes, coming from, at the time, it was Cygames and Shuffle Master from the Macau market. And those two games were so popular and so volatile that it really transformed the US market to a gambler market. And so that's one of the big shifts. I think the other one is really the proliferation of the portrait hardware. So when I first got in the industry, it was there was a couple portraits out there, the Bally Pro Wave was prominent, but for the most part, everything was dual screen at that time. And what we've seen now is we've seen a complete shift away from, both the dual screen video hardware and a lot of the stepper hardware that's really diminished in the market. And it's been completely replaced with these curved portrait screen monitors with big overhead sign packages to really get the player to sit down and believe that, this is the game that they're gonna be able to play, and then they're playing a really highly volatile game. So yeah, man, the market has shifted a lot in the last 12 years from kind of this dual screen, lower volatility market to portrait screen, high volatility.
Mhm. Yeah, fascinating insights, some real specifics there as well. And obviously, when you mentioned the Australification, can't help but think, obviously, you've got Aristocrat and Light and Wonder, two massive companies who are present in, both the US and Australia. You mentioned also slot machine enthusiast. That's kind of at the top of your LinkedIn profile. A personal question, because already you've talked so much about slot machines and your passion for them. But what do you love so much about them in particular? So, for example, obviously you have table games. Blackjack, roulette, and I'm a sports guy, so I love sports betting, and obviously poker had its time as kind of the form, the new thing as well. What is it about slots for you that makes it sort of above all else?
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things for me, and one is kind of really fundamentally what slot machines are, and this kind of extends to more gambling in general, but I think really for slot machines, it's this beautiful intersection for me of psychology and mathematics. And so I like to tell the story of $200 bills, right? You got $200 bills in your wallet, and we want to get both those as a slot machine vendor, right? We want to make sure
Mhm.
that you're putting both in. The first one comes from just attract. You look at the game, you see what the game, how the game plays. There's a character you like. There's a jackpot that feels like it's obtainable. Well, that's that first $100 bill. You're going to put that in. That's the psychology of it, right? How do you make players feel like this is the game that they're going to want to play, and this is the game they have a chance to win a lot of money on? And then really bring in the mathematics. That's getting that second $100 bill out of the wallet. If
Mhm.
the players enjoy the ride of the game, they feel like they feel that they've seen the wins, they've seen the pays, they've seen the features hit. They feel like they have a chance to get a lot of features, get progressives, get big wins. Well, then we can get that second $100 bill. That's really on the mathematics side. So I think that's really kind of the first thing that really gets me excited. Is just kind of those two intersections, two things that I really both enjoy both of those
Mhm.
aspects. Reading a lot about psychology, got a math background, and the other thing that I think is fascinating about slot machines is the volatility of them. You brought up some other sports table game earlier, gambling table games, sports. A lot of those are very low volatile games because it's
Mhm.
a lot of blackjack. You bet $5, you win $5 back.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, that's probably why I like them,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
because
every
it's
gambler
consistent.
will.
Yeah, it's consistent.
Yeah.
Now you can volatilize them by betting way up. You can bet five
Mhm.
hundred dollars hand on blackjack, make it a very volatile experience. But with slot machines, it's much more volatile. And I am a gambler. I do enjoy the gamble aspect. I like the idea of betting 50 cents to win $10,000. I know it's not going
Mhm.
to happen often, but knowing that that's a possibility in the back of my head, I dream about spending that $10,000. I think about what vacation can I go on with that $10,000. And knowing that I only got about 50 cents to win that, just kind of excites me in general. So you can do that in your sports betting. You can definitely set up your parlay bets to
Mhm.
get to those kind of odds. But for the most part, most of gambling outside of slot machines is very kind of just almost even pays in a lot of cases. And slot machines really sets that to where you can win a lot of money on a small bet. And that, as a gambler, that gets me excited.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that applies to a huge number of gamblers across the world, and even in a obviously there's gambling outside of Las Vegas, obviously, but when you walk through a Las Vegas resort, slot machines are always just always busy with people, and as you say, they've got that glint in their eye. They're looking for that jackpot, and yeah, as you say, you can do it with small stakes as well, and it makes complete sense. Why you've got the passion for the slot machines that you do, and following on from that, you mentioned obviously you lead these three departments. Currently, what kind of projects are you working on at Bluberi?
Yeah, so right now, like I mentioned, I think really a lot of our focus is market expansion. When I think about Bluberi as a company, we've been around for nearly 30 years, actually over 30 years at this point. And I think that we haven't been in every single market in the US. We've been in only limited markets in Canada. So a lot of market expansion is really one thing that we're focused on is getting into all the markets that all the big guys are in, making sure that all the players in North America and internationally in the future will be able to get on and actually play a Bluberi game. So that's one of the big things that we are definitely trying to accomplish right now. Really exciting. We do actually have a launch of a new piece of hardware coming up. It is slated to launch next month. It's going to be the Beacon Elite. We showed it at G2E last year. And the first title that's going to go on this brand new piece of hardware for us is going to be Devil's Lock All In, which is the first sequel to our successful Devil's Lock game that was released about 2 years ago. Quickly became a player favorite. We've had a lot of fun evolving the mechanics to really make a better experience for the players, but really maintaining the true DNA of what the original Devil's Lock was. So that's big right now on what we're doing. And I think when you look at our overall company, one of the other big initiatives that I have that I'm working on is building identity with players. And I think this is
Mhm.
one area of opportunity that we have in the market to find a way to equate our games with Bluberi, our brand. We've got this great mascot. His name's Bluebert. We named him at G2E last year. We had a big contest where all the operators at G2E were able to vote on the name of our company mascot. Bluebert won. We're very excited about that.
Mm.
So now Bluebert is going to start showing up in our games. I think this is something that has not really been attempted before in the industry, is to brand a character across multiple product lines. I've seen in the past a lot of other companies were able to, incorporate characters into their games, but they're really built for a specific product line or a game theme. We want to, you know, Tim, at the end of the day, what I'm hoping for is that players walk into a casino and say, where are your Bluberi games? Not, where's your Lightning Link or where's your Devil's Lock, but where are your Bluberi games? And so I think building this identity is really one of the keys, and really finding a way to help players identify what a Bluberi game is and how it has its own identity in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a key point because, as you say, it's similar online, but obviously it goes to land-based as well. When you go to different brands online, just as an example, but Caesars, you bet MGM. Often, what you're looking for is not necessarily a bet MGM or Caesars game. It is the game by that vendor that you quite like their games, and similarly across land-based. So I totally get what you mean in terms of that brand recognition. And of course the mascot, of course, which are always a nice little point of differentiation. You mentioned Devil's Lock. It was sort of it's a nice segue because I was going to planning to ask you about that. And actually, you mentioned kind of the evolution of it. Maybe I can tag on to a question. What goes into, so you've created the game or the product or the slot, and you're trying to keep that franchise going. What kind of goes into that process?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. And it's something that we're really passionate here at Bluberi. We had this great game, Devil's Lock. I think the game came along at the right time, and I mentioned earlier the Australification of the US, going really heavy gambler. Well, any trend in gaming typically is a pendulum, right? It's going to swing back. So I think the market was really kind of reaching a tipping point on these gambler games where they were getting to the point where they were so volatile that players would either lose their $100 in a couple minutes or they'd win a whole bunch of money, but that was a very select few. So I think the market was ready for something that was more fun. And that's one thing that we really focus on here at Bluberi is how do we make fun games? We're making games for players at the end of the day. We're not making games for operators. We're not making games for our executives. We're making games for players, and those are the ones that work. And right now, I think the players are looking for more fun in their gamble experience. They want their dollar to last a little bit longer. And that's where I think Devil's Lock really kind of hit the market at the right time. And this is a game focused on fun. It's got a fun, irreverent character. It's got bold, bright colors. It's got frequent events. When you get into kind of the bonuses, they're very well structured and they're very well confined within certain pay ranges. And so when we look at the game, the first thing we do is we talk to players. We spent the last couple of years going out in the market and doing what we call player intercepts, talking to players about what they like and what they don't like. We partner with casinos. We pay the players for their time. And we have a great questionnaire that we build up and we actually talk to the players. And so we've done a lot of research on Devil's Lock and we understand the things that really drive the game. And this is where we get into some more, some kind of Bluberi terms. And the term we like to use here is we call it a de-clone structure. At Bluberi, we don't clone games. We had a great hit in Devil's Lock. We could have cloned it. We could have put a bunch of different art packages on it and blasted across the market. We chose not to do that. We feel like clones have diminishing returns. So instead, what we do is we de-clone struct the game. And that's going out and doing the player intercepts, understanding what they like about the game, what they don't like about the game, pulling out key elements. Like, one in particular that comes to mind for Devil's Lock was the color red. Players like the color red. And so when we, de-clone struct that game, we've got a game that we just released about 2 months ago called Shark's Lock. It is not a clone of Devil's Lock, but it is an evolution of Devil's Lock. And the things that we really keyed on that one was respins was really important to players. So we actually went from a 100% mystery respin trigger to split between a mystery respin trigger and a symbol-driven respin. So you respin the reels, whether mystery or if this eel comes out. So we heard that from the deconstruction process. Also, sharks, there's not a lot of red sharks out in the world, but because of the strong affiliation with Devil's Lock and that color red that we heard over and over again, we elected to make the shark red. And, again, that's just the deconstruction process. When you get into Devil's Lock All In, really we're generating a lot of new mechanics that are based on the previous ones. So it's a lot about the, in Devil's Lock, the basic premise is if you land the devil on the middle reel, any cash on reels values you have are locked up, and landing that devil will unlock each one of those. So it's really leaning into this cash on reels functionality of Devil's Lock and finding ways that the players did enjoy engaging on it. So those respins, winning multiple minis or minors, and coming up with new ways to deliver those same experiences that the player know and love, but it's going to be a unique, fresh experience when they get into that game.
Mhm. What I think I can tell from a little bit from that answer is earlier, obviously you mentioned you learned at IGT the importance of going to the market and going with players. I think obviously your colleagues in Bluberi as a wider organization, but I can definitely see perhaps that influence in your process as you're talking through the declone instruction you said it was.
Declone instruction, yeah, that's the
Yes,
term.
there we go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting stuff, especially as you say in terms of not cloning games and keeping a franchise performing as highly as it was originally. I wanted to talk a final topic for you, a couple of things in one. I wanted to ask what Bluberi has in store for the rest of the year. We've kind of touched on a few things already, but in terms of industry trends, where are slots going? And also specifically, I think you can. I think you've got a lot of interest and enthusiasm for the topic of three-pot fillers and what you can tell me about that.
Yeah, I think honestly, Tim, all those stories are kind of tied together. So really looking at kind of industry trends. Yeah, right now, three pot fillers, or which is really those three bags of coins, where you can catch one to get a bonus, or you can combine them to get kind of a super event bonus, right? They've kind of taken the gambling world by storm over the last couple of years. If you look at top performing games, they're dominating the list right now. And I think when you get into like why those games are working. It's really, I believe, a couple things, and this comes down to what we call our gaming archetypes, and this is kind of a proprietary list of kind of emotional responses to games. So not mechanics, more just like the way that you react to them. And one of them, I think two of them really apply here. One is the super event, and I think players do look for this super event. We still like volatile games in this market right now, and it's very easy for the player to see, okay, if I unlock all three of those bags at the same time, all three of those pot fillers, I'm going to get that super event and I'm going to get paid. So it's very easy to see. This is another archetype we call believable and achievable. So does the game present a clear path to victory for the player? And I think that these three pot fillers really kind of achieve both of those things really, really well. Now there's so many out there in the market. I think we're going to start getting to the point where we were at with like lock and respin, maybe in like 2018, 2019, where everybody had their lock and respin game. Most of them were not very good, and the best really kind of persisted. So, the ultimate fire links, the lightning links, dragon links, they still persist and do really, really well in the market. Now we shift to this three pot filler, and we're really kind of seeing what is going to stick with the three pot fillers, because it is providing a great gambling experience for players. Players clearly love them. The performance is dictating that. And I think one thing that you're going to see is you're going to see kind of offshoots of this three pot filler. One game that we are working on right now is a game called Timberjack Going Wilder. And this game we showed an early version on G2E last year. We'll have the final version on G2E this year. And what this game takes a legacy brand from Bluberi that's been around for 10 plus years and adds in a three pot filler. And I think one area that we're going to be a little unique with this, and again, we like to be unique here at Bluberi. We want to do things a little bit different. We want to provide the fun back to players. And we can do that through frequency. We can do that through types of events and presentation. And so what we're going to do with our three pot filler in this one is really going to make it very base game centric. So right now, most three pot fillers are really about taking you to that second screen bonus. And we see an opportunity in the market to kind of build that into the base game. So there's a lot of base game events happening with the three pot fillers. So you can still get that super event of all three pots. You still have that believable and achievable of I'm right next to a big win. All I got to do is just catch this one thing and this one thing, and I'll get that big win. But again, presented in a different way. It's not the three bags of coins to lead you to a hold and spin bonus. It's something completely different, very focused on wilds, very focused on stacks of symbols and big base game wins. Mm-hmm. And so I think like that really ties to that trend of like progress, super events, and that believable and achievable aspect of what a three pot filler can do.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks again for a really, really detailed breakdown there. I think I'd urge anyone really looking at the slot machine industry in any shape or form. I think they've got to give this a watch, because I think we've talked through some really interesting things. I mean, even just stood out earlier. I love the analogy of the psychology and the maths. Yeah, plenty. Thanks for giving us plenty of detailed information and analysis. And I think we should definitely do this again sometime soon.
I would love to, Tim. That'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and excited about where this thing's going.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for joining us, Christian, and to our viewers, thanks for watching. I'm sure you gained an awful lot from that. And until next time, Christian, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Tim.